Woo! What's up, everybody? I'm so excited. I'm ocean bound and I'm heading to Nahant. Man, it's been so long. I mean, you guys, if any of you guys have been watching for a while, you know that I've literally been hitting Pleasure Bay session after Pleasure Bay session. Man, I miss the waves. We've had just like a wave drought. And we've had a real drought too, but like we really haven't had any groundswell in a while. And this isn't even like totally crazy groundswell. We're talking like, you know, 3-foot waves at like 8 or 9 second periods, but I'll take it. That's not your typical like 6-second period wind swell. I didn't think that today was actually going to be something that I could do, and I think that it's going to be up for at least another hour or so. And what we have, the wind is shifted from northeast to a little bit of northwest, which means at Nahant it's going to be 3-foot waves, 9-second periods, basically offshore or maybe side off situation with the wind. And I mean, if I'm gonna come back, that's what you want to come back to. I mean, obviously 5-foot waves are a little bit more fun. I've got my FG, just want to make it easy. Gonna ride my 925. You know, the one thing that's a little bit of a bummer is I don't have my 60 centimeter fuse, and so I've got to rock my 50 centimeter fuse. You know, I have friends that love 50 centimeter fuses. I've gone from 60 to 50, back to 60, forced back into 50, but I do prefer the 60. It's just easier. I feel like I can do more consistently with the 60. That being said, I'm gonna rock out with the 50 today. I think I'm gonna rock out with the 50 and the 195, the 925, and I'm hoping I can do my 5.5 meter strike, but I haven't done waves yet with my 6.5 meter duotone unit. And so part of me, I mean, it depends on how much wind there is, obviously, but if it's blowing like 20, I'll probably do the strike. If it's blowing less than 20, I'll do the 6.5 unit. And if it's blowing like less than 16, I'll probably do an 8 meter strike, just because like I'm not messing around. I'm here to ride waves. So the other thing I wanted to mention in my life that I've been kind of dealing with is that this past Tuesday, my community was able to do a screening of Ben Gravy's documentary on Ben Gravy called For the Dream. If you guys haven't seen it yet, I totally recommend it. It's an inspiring documentary that basically just makes you want to get out there and do stuff, and kind of shows that like if you want something to happen, you got to make it happen, but it's totally possible. For the dream. So thank you very much to Ben Gravy for being an inspiration to so many of us. Thank you so much to Kevin, who I worked with from Wind and Waves, and who was able to, you know, kind of allow us to put this type of thing on. Thank you to Save the Harbor, Save the Bay, and the DCR, and thank you to my whole community. I think so many of us left that day just being like, oh, I'm stoked. Like, that was really cool, you know? So I just wanted to say thanks. I'm proud of that. And if you haven't checked out Ben Gravy yet, he's definitely an inspiration to me on YouTube, so I highly recommend it. I think you guys would really dig it. So, all right, so that's enough talk. I'm so antsy. It's been so long since I've ridden waves, so let's flip this camera around and see what the beach looks like, right? The flag. I dig that. Man, it's so good to be back at Nahant. All right, these are super small waves. I don't even know if you consider these waves. This is definitely way less than I thought it was gonna be, totally honest. That's Tim right there, he owns Ocean House Surf. All right, let's go set up and join Tim out there. I'm super stoked, woo! I actually have a little bit of a dilemma. The waves are so small that part of me is like, I think I should ride 1325. I've got enough wind, but the waves are small. And so the 1325 just like gets me on those smaller waves easier. We'll see. I don't know. Oh, so excited, birds. Oh my God, it waves beautifully. organized with very small waves. Alright, so I want to talk about my relationship with this 50 centimeter fuse. Where to begin with this one, right? So Armstrong makes a 50 centimeter, a 60 centimeter, a 70 centimeter, and I've heard people talking about this 80 centimeter fuse too. So I always thought that the 60 was kind of like the stock or go-to that they recommend, but I see on their website that they're recommending the 70 now for beginners, and the 60 is for intermediate and up, while the 50 is for surf rippers and advanced kiters. So I've never ridden the 70s, so I can't really comment on that one, although I know it's just more stable due to its length. And I use a 60 for most situations, and I just love it. It's the perfect balance for me between like stability, pumping, maneuverability. It just suits my riding style. So over a year ago, I found myself riding at my favorite beach here in Nahant, and it was onshore conditions with like over 3-foot wind swell, short period waves, like 4 or 5 second period waves, and I found that my tail was breaching when I was trying to get out. Short period waves, you know, once they start to get over 3 feet, they get steeper. And I had a 72 centimeter mast, which is kind of on the short side. I feel like more people are riding 85s these days. And so with a 72 or like a 60 centimeter mast, you learn to ride the contours of the waves and versus just like kind of hovering over everything, right? And so while doing this, you have like you're cresting the wave, and you're starting to pitch down on the back side of the wave, and with these steeper short period waves, your tail can reach out the back. So naturally, I use this as a reason. I was like, I gotta get a 50 centimeter fuse. It's gonna solve the problem. Did it solve the problem? Yes. It's definitely much better in these situations, but it opened up a whole other can of worms. Like the 50 centimeter, it's really pitchy. It livens everything up. It makes your movements matter more. Even the movements of your toes or your feet might have a bigger impact that you might not see with a longer fuse because the stabilizer is just so much closer to the mast. So less room for it, to travel up and down. It's snappier. And when you start banking from side to side, you can crank tighter and tighter turns, so that's good, right? It's harder, and the pitchiness is definitely something you need to get used to, and I feel like I keep my stance closer, like how I kite foil, so my movements don't like really have that big of an impact, but I felt like it was a challenge, and the one at the time I was totally stoked to accept, and I felt like if I could just make it work, it would make me a better winger. It would increase my tiger paw, as my friend T and I would say. So that mentality just didn't last forever. As I evolved to like the 50, I eventually evolved out of liking it too. Honestly, I'm not radical when it comes to the surfing part of windsurfing. I'm getting better, but I'm not ripping up and down the wave faces making a ton of turns, and I certainly wasn't doing that a year ago when I first started getting into the 50. It pumps different, meaning you have to use like a quicker cadence, and I feel like you get less power in your pumps, and that can make things more difficult when you're trying to stay on a wave in marginal conditions, kind of like today. Like small, fast waves when you're riding in directly offshore wind. My wing dealer Phil, he prefers the pump of the 50, but he also tends to use a V-tail too. I do like that it gave me a better sense of stability because it made me more aware of my movements and how they relate to my balance. But what was the cost, So it's harder, so it's making me less successful when I'm trying new things, like upwind tacks, for instance. You need to be aware of your feet and what they're doing on top of everything else that you happen to be trying. So it just made me more inconsistent. In a way, it kind of killed my progress. So I moved back to the 60 centimeter fuse with no regrets, and I don't feel like I've moved to something beyond my skill level or anything, and then had to come back with my tail in between my legs. It was a good learning experience. Having a 50 is a cool thing to have in my quiver. I see it as a challenge, or a way to liven up some wider wings like, this 1325. But for regular riding and trying new stuff, that 60 just makes things easier. And why not, let that help me progress faster on wave days, especially bigger wave days, like 5 foot and over. I'd much rather be on something that was much more stable and predictable. And I'm a decent skill level at this point, but when you're in bigger waves, you miss more turns and whatnot than normal. So anything I can do to stay up and ripping is definitely going to be a plus. So I'm not knocking on the short fuse, and to me, they have a time and a place. And if you're breaching your tail constantly, it's definitely something to consider. But a longer mast would also help you, as does working out on your technique and riding the contours of the waves more, and just needing to ride slightly deeper in the water. That could help too. So this session, it was hard to get on these waves, no lie. Even though I had the 1325, the conditions were offshore winds, and that swell was so much smaller than I thought it was. And it was fast enough to make it difficult just to stay on the wave. I was forced to ride the 50 centimeter in the past few sessions, and this has just renewed my love for the 60, and I'm stoked to get it back from being repaired. So that's all I got. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. If you want to see some more of my videos, please consider clicking that subscribe button. Drop a comment. Let me know what you know about short fuses. I'd love to know. You may have a totally different perspective. And with that, I hope all of you guys are doing well out there. See you soon on the flip, and I'll wish you all an awesome day. Later!